What is up, ladies and gents? You know what time of day it is. It's XCN time, and in today's video we're going to be talking all about XCN. We're going to be discussing what we are seeing here right now on the charts, and I'll be giving you guys my price prediction for where I think XCN is going over the next few days and my target for 2025. So be sure to stay tuned for all of that. Of course, if you are a new viewer, then welcome to this channel. If you do like this sort of content, hit the like button and subscribe for more. If you are a returning viewer, as always, welcome back to this channel. It's great to see you all here. So diving straight into this video, and we're first going to touch on the price action that we've been seeing here on the 1 hour chart on XCN, because honestly guys, what we are seeing right now really does excite me. And basically, if I get my annotations back up from my previous video, in fact, let me delete this upper trend line. On the very shorter term, we have this situation here where we've just done a massive pump here on XCN. The prices basically went from 0.8 cents all the way to 2.7 cents here. And of course, after reaching that high there of 2.7 cents, we've seen somewhat of a consolidation. Of course, the prices did head down to roughly 1.8 cents. And now we are hovering around the 2 cents level here. So the reason why the prices went down a little bit here on Onyxcoin is because, of course, people were just taking profits from the fact that we did a 3x in a short space of time. This is completely normal here in crypto, and there is nothing bearish about that. Of course, the situation on the shorter term here on Onyxcoin, in my opinion, is still very bullish. And what I am seeing here on Onyxcoin, in my opinion, is very similar to the scenario that we saw back in mid-January. Of course, as you can see here from the charts, we saw an initial pump here, very similar to the one we've seen just now in April. We've seen this sort of consolidation that lasted 5 days here on Onyxcoin. We had a very similar triangle type pattern, and after breaking out past this upper resistance line, we started on the next leg up here, and in this occasion, we saw prices on Onyxcoin go from 1.2 cents all the way to 5 cents there. So basically a 4x after we broke out. So if we compare this over here to what we are seeing here, we are seeing, in my opinion, something very similar. Of course, this consolidation comes with declining trading volume. As you can see down there, the trading volume is getting lower. The price volatility is getting a lot lower. And so this essentially, guys, is the calm before the storm. And so the trigger for the next leg up here on Onyxcoin could come from the moment we break past this upper trend line. So as you can see, we've got this resistance coming down here, forming this triangle sort of pattern. And as you can see, both the resistance has been tested on multiple occasions, meaning the price has come up to this level and has been rejected. The support has been keeping the price heading in an upwards direction. And if we break past this resistance, we could potentially see an explosive move out of it. Of course, if we have a look at what happened in January, again, the moment we came out of this triangle sort of pattern, you can see that as the prices went up, the volume also exploded. So that's exactly what we want to see from a pattern looking like this as well. Of course, if we see a successful breakout with an increase in trading volume, is this as the potential price target? Of course, the length of the parabolic move going into this pennant type structure forms the distance that we could see if we successfully break out. And of course, if that happens in the next few hours, we could be looking at a price target of up to 4.3 cents. That's a 108% trade if we successfully see a breakout. Now, of course, if you're looking for a great place to trade any breakout that we see, then look no further than the MEX exchange. This is the exchange that I use for all my trading because they have some of the lowest trading fees and they don't require KYC to get started. And for a very limited time only, they're giving every new user who signs up a free $20. So if you want to make use of this offer, click in the link in the description down below, fill out your details, takes less than a minute to do so, deposit some fiat or crypto into your account, and they'll give you that $20 straight away. And of course, on top of normal trading here for Onyxcoin, they even have futures where you can long Onyxcoin with up to 20 times leverage. So if you want to make use of that offer, again, link in the description down below. Of course, thank you guys. Back into this video. So this is a potential scenario that I'm monitoring here on the chart right now. But I also want to make you guys aware of something else that I'm looking for here on the shorter term, and that also stems from what we saw back in January. And I clearly remember here back in January, what I initially saw on the Onyxcoin chart was this resistance going across. This was the first thing that I monitored after we started to do this sort of consolidation around this 1 cent region here. And you can see why I was kind of fixated on this resistance. Of course, it had been tested on multiple different occasions. We indeed managed to see a breakout on increased trading volume, but unfortunately, we didn't see the price targets come from this triangle. Instead, we saw a fake out and prices kind of consolidated for a little bit longer. And it turned out that this resistance here was the important one. So the lesson in this is that although we are seeing this triangle right now, don't get too fixated on this particular triangle here. What I'm also potentially monitoring is if we see something similar to what we saw in January, is maybe some sort of breakout, but let's just say we do something like this, for example. It doesn't mean it's game over here for Onyxcoin. It just means that the main resistance may indeed be something a little bit more like this. Maybe Onyxcoin is taking its time, to consolidate, to allow all the sellers to get out of Onyxcoin, to allow new buyers to come in before we see another leg up. So one way or another, I do believe that we are going to see another leg up here on Onyxcoin. There's so many different reasons why I think Onyxcoin is going to be doing well in the shorter term. Of course, if we have a look at our indicators just briefly, we can see that on the 1-day chart, we are still extremely bullish here. And if you have a look at where the values of the lines are on the MACD, they're nowhere near as high as they were back in January when we saw that initial pump. So in my opinion, the MACD has a lot of space to run. Again, RSI exactly the same here. At the moment, the value is sitting at 71, just about overbought, but nowhere near the value that we saw back in January with these subsequent pumps. So again, RSI has a lot of space to run here before we see some sort of top on Onyxcoin. So the indicators are looking great here on Onyxcoin. So of course, in the shorter term, I do think we are going to be going up. And in the longer term, my price targets for Onyxcoin generally fall along these Fibonacci levels. Of course, I'm using these Fib levels to predict the price target for 2025 here on Onyxcoin due to the fact that if we have a look at how the Onyxcoin price has reacted to these Fib levels, you can see that on a lot of different occasions, the prices have used these levels as places of support and resistance. So we know Onyxcoin really respects the Fib levels. So as the prices start to head up here in the shorter term, of course, I gave you that price target at 4.3 cents. The next meaningful target that we have is obviously this previous high here. That's just under 5 cents. That sits at the 1 Fib. And so 5 cents here is basically my ambitious shorter term target. Of course, talking longer term now, and when I say longer term, I mean this will probably happen, in my opinion, towards the later part of 2025. I predict that Onyxcoin will be reaching anywhere between this 1.41 Fib here and this 1.618 Fib. Now, what's interesting about this 1.41 Fib here is that 17 cents, and it's really close to the previous all-time high here of Onyxcoin. So it makes a really awesome target to have. Now, if we can crush the previous all-time high, then my ambitious price target sits at this golden Fib there, the most significant one, and that's sitting at roughly 32 cents. And I think this will happen when the conditions here in crypto are generally optimal. That means we are seeing extreme greed in the markets. Of course, when I say extreme greed, I'm referring to the fear and greed index that you can find on CoinMarketCap. Right now, we have still fear in the markets. It's been better than it has been over the past few days and weeks, but it's nowhere near greed and extreme greed yet. And generally, when we see the emotions very positive here in the markets, when we see greed and extreme greed, that's generally when we tend to see market tops. And that's also when we generally tend to see the most explosive price action in smaller altcoins like Onyxcoin. Of course, on top of that as well, what we need to see is things like Bitcoin, the leader here in crypto. We need to see Bitcoin making new all-time highs. We also need to see other large caps making new all-time highs like XRP, Ethereum, and so on. And that's going to give us here on Onyxcoin the best possible chance of reaching these upper price targets that I have. But for now, in the shorter term, I'm really looking forward to seeing what happens with this consolidation that we are seeing. Everything at the moment is looking very nice. For the shorter term, the decisive level that I'm looking at is 1.8 cents. So as long as the prices stay above 1.8 cents, I believe that we are going to see another leg up here on Onyxcoin. Very finally as well, something I forgot to mention towards the start is some news coming out here for Onyxcoin. Of course, the team are always cooking some things up, and if you didn't know, they're close to releasing a brand new smart wallet that allows for gas-free transactions, and it also allows people to buy Onyxcoin directly via the app using their credit or debit card by the looks of things. Now, of course, this is a very good idea because essentially it lowers the barrier of entry for people to come into the Onyxcoin ecosystem. And generally speaking, when we see more users of a blockchain, we generally tend to see more people stake their XCN, and that reduces the circulating supply of XCN on the open markets. And in the longer term, this should translate to higher prices. So making it easier for people to buy into XCN is always a good thing. So I think the team are heading in the right direction by releasing their own smart wallet. Hopefully it's a good one. We don't know when it's going to be released. But I will keep you guys up to date as we get more details from this. So I thought that was just a nice little thing to end this video on. The team are definitely working behind the scenes. It isn't just the price pumping for no reason. Of course, guys, thank you so much for watching this video. Do let me know down in the comments if you are still holding your XCN. And if you are a holder here in XCN, let me know when you first bought in. Did you buy in just a few days ago? Did you buy in at the start of 2025 or even before that? I'm always like to hear your guys' responses. Of course, I asked that in my previous videos as well, and it's been a pleasure reading all your responses to that. So of course, let me know in the comments below. Thank you again, guys, and I'll see you in my next video.